Have you ever met someone who just doesn't seem to age the way everyone else does? Not in a creepy, vampiric way, but in this mysterious, almost magical sense where time just slides right off them. Well, if you've crossed paths with an INFJ, you've probably noticed this exact thing. There's something about them that feels timeless, like they're somehow immune to the wear and tear that life throws at the rest of us. So what's going on here? Why do INFJs seem ageless? And what's the secret that everyone picks up on instantly? Stick around because we're about to dive deep into this fascinating mystery. 1. The quiet wisdom that transcends age. Let's kick things off with something you've probably noticed if you know an INFJ. They've got this old soul vibe that's impossible to ignore. Even when they're young, like in their 20s or 30s, they carry themselves with a wisdom that feels decades beyond their years. It's not that they're trying to act older or more mature. It's just naturally who they are. INFJs have this unique ability to see through the surface level stuff that most people get caught up in. While others are chasing trends, getting wrapped up in drama, or stressing over things that won't matter next week, INFJs are thinking about bigger picture stuff. They're contemplating life's deeper meanings, human nature, and the patterns that connect everything together. This perspective creates a kind of agelessness because they're not tied to the superficial markers of any particular age group. They don't need to prove anything. They're not desperately clinging to youth or rushing to seem more grown up. They just exist in this steady, grounded space that feels timeless. Here's the thing. When you're not constantly worried about fitting into age-appropriate boxes, you naturally radiate a quality that transcends age itself. INFJs mastered this without even trying. 2. The youthful curiosity that never dies. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. While INFJs have that old soul wisdom we just talked about, they also maintain this childlike wonder about the world that most people lose somewhere between elementary school and their first real job. Think about it. Most people stop asking why after a certain age. They accept things as they are, fall into routines, and stop questioning the world around them. But not INFJs. They're still fascinated by everything. Why people behave the way they do, how things work beneath the surface, what makes life meaningful. This curiosity keeps their minds sharp and their spirits young. This combination is what creates that ageless quality. They've got the wisdom of someone who's lived 1,000 lives, paired with the enthusiasm of someone experiencing everything for the first time. It's like they've figured out how to hold onto the best parts of every age while letting go of the limitations. When you're around an INFJ, you can feel this energy. They make you want to see the world with fresh eyes again. They remind you that life is still full of mysteries worth exploring, no matter how old you are. And honestly, that's pretty magical. 3. Stress doesn't stick to them the same way. Let's talk about something that ages people faster than anything else: stress. We all know the person who looks 10 years older than they actually are because life has just beaten them down. The wrinkles, the tired eyes, the heavy energy. Stress literally shows up on people's faces and in their body language. But INFJs, they seem to process stress differently. Don't get me wrong, they absolutely feel stress. In fact, they might feel it even more deeply than others because of their sensitivity. But here's the key. They don't let it consume them or define them. INFJs have this incredible ability to step back and process their emotions privately. They retreat into their inner world, work through whatever's bothering them, and come out the other side having made peace with it. They don't carry grudges around like heavy bags. They don't let resentment etch itself into their features. They release, they reflect, and they move forward. This emotional processing is like a secret anti-aging technique. When you're not storing decades of unresolved anger, bitterness, or stress in your body, it shows. Your face stays softer. Your energy stays lighter. You maintain that freshness that makes people do a double take when they find out your real age. Plus, INFJs tend to avoid the kind of chaotic, drama-filled situations that age people prematurely. They're selective about who they let into their lives and what battles they choose to fight. This isn't about being cold or uncaring. It's about protecting their peace. And that peace, it keeps them looking and feeling ageless. 4. the mystery factor that keeps people guessing. There's something undeniably mysterious about INFJs, and mystery has this weird way of making people seem ageless. Think about it. When you can't quite figure someone out, when they keep parts of themselves hidden, it creates this timeless quality. INFJs are naturally private. They don't blast their entire life story on social media. They don't overshare at parties. They reveal themselves slowly, carefully, and only to people they truly trust. This creates an air of intrigue that makes it hard to pin them down to any specific age category. Younger INFJs come across as more mature because of their depth and reserve. Older INFJs maintain a youthful mystique because they haven't become jaded or overly open books. There's always something more to discover, another layer to understand. People can't age you in their minds if they can't fully figure you out. And INFJs, they're experts at keeping people slightly off balance in the best possible way. You might know them for years and still feel like you're only seeing the tip of the iceberg. That sense of endless depth contributes massively to their ageless quality. 5. They don't follow conventional life timelines. Society has all these unwritten rules about what you're supposed to do and when you're supposed to do it. Graduate at 22, start a career by 25, get married by 30, have kids by 35, retire at 65. You know the drill. These timelines become markers that age us because we're constantly comparing ourselves to where we should be. INFJs tend to throw that whole playbook out the window. They march to the beat of their own drum, following their intuition rather than society's timeline. They might take unconventional career paths, wait longer to settle down, or pursue dreams that don't make sense to everyone else. And you know what? This freedom from conventional milestones contributes to their ageless quality. When you're not rushing to hit specific life checkpoints by certain ages, you don't carry that stressed, behind-schedule energy that ages so many people. INFJs give themselves permission to unfold at their own pace. They trust the journey, even when it looks different from everyone else's. This also means they're less likely to have midlife crises or quarter-life crises because they weren't following the standard script to begin with. They're not waking up at 40 realizing they live someone else's life. They've been living authentically all along, and that authenticity is eternally youthful. 6. The inner world that keeps them young. Here's something fascinating about INFJs. They spend an enormous amount of time in their inner world. While everyone else is focused on external markers of aging like wrinkles, career achievements, or relationship status, INFJs are living rich, vibrant lives inside their own minds. This inner world is like a fountain of youth. Inside their heads, they're exploring ideas, creating imaginary scenarios, contemplating possibilities, and processing life at a deep level. This mental activity keeps their minds sharp and their spirits engaged in a way that physical age can't touch. Think about it like this. If you spend most of your time focused on the external world, you're constantly reminded of aging, mirrors, birthdays, societal expectations, physical changes. But if you're an INFJ who lives primarily in your inner world, those external markers matter less. You're measuring your life by the richness of your thoughts, the depth of your connections, and the meaning you've discovered, none of which have expiration dates. This internal focus also means INFJs are less likely to have their self-worth tied to age-dependent things like physical appearance or youthful energy. They value qualities that genuinely don't fade with time: wisdom, compassion, authenticity, understanding. When those are your benchmarks, aging becomes almost irrelevant. 7. They're emotionally mature but playful. One of the most charming things about INFJs is how they can switch between profound emotional maturity and genuine playfulness in the blink of an eye. They can have a deep conversation about existential philosophy one minute and laugh at silly jokes the next. This range is incredibly rare and contributes massively to their ageless quality. Most people either stay in serious, mature mode as they age, losing their sense of fun, or they cling to immaturity, refusing to grow up. INFJs exist in this beautiful middle space where they can access both ends of the spectrum whenever appropriate. This emotional flexibility means they can connect with people of all ages. They can have meaningful conversations with elderly folks who appreciate their depth, and they can also joke around and be silly with kids who appreciate their playfulness. Age becomes almost meaningless when you can authentically connect across all generations. Plus, this ability to not take themselves too seriously keeps INFJs from developing that rigid, stuck-in-their-ways quality that ages so many people. They stay adaptable, open-minded, and willing to laugh, including at themselves. That's the kind of attitude that keeps you young no matter what your birth certificate says. 8. The calm energy that defies time. Energy is one of the first things people notice about someone. It's often how we subconsciously gauge age. Kids have wild, bouncy energy. Teenagers have rebellious, unpredictable energy. Middle-aged people often have stressed, rushed energy. Older folks might have tired, settled energy. INFJs, they have this calm, steady energy that doesn't fit neatly into any age category. It's peaceful without being sluggish. It's present without being hyper. It's engaged without being frantic. This quality makes it genuinely hard to place them in a specific age range. Their calmness comes from that deep inner world we talked about earlier. They're not constantly reacting to every external stimulus. They're grounded in themselves, processing life at their own pace. This creates an aura of timelessness. They seem to exist slightly outside the normal rush of time that ages everyone else. When you're around an INFJ, you might notice that time seems to slow down a bit. Conversations feel less rushed. Moments feel more present. This isn't just your imagination. It's them creating a little pocket of timelessness with their energy. And when you exist in that space regularly, it makes sense that time doesn't seem to touch you the same way it touches others. 9. They invest in quality over trends. Let's get practical for a moment. Part of what makes INFJs seem ageless is their relationship with material things and trends. While everyone else is constantly chasing the latest fashion, the newest gadget, or the current viral trend, INFJs are investing in timeless quality. They'd rather have one perfect item that will last forever than 10 trendy pieces that'll be outdated next season. This applies to everything: clothes, furniture, friendships, interests, values. This focus on timeless quality rather than fleeting trends means they never look dated because they were never chasing trends in the first place. Think about those classic movies or pieces of music that never age because they weren't trying to be trendy. They were just being excellent. That's INFJs in a nutshell. They're not trying to fit into any particular era or age group. They're just being authentically themselves, investing in things of lasting value. This also means they're not constantly reinventing themselves to stay relevant or young. They found their authentic style years ago, and it just happens to work across decades because it wasn't based on temporary trends. There's something genuinely ageless about someone who knows who they are and isn't trying to prove anything to anyone. 10. The deep connections that keep their hearts young. If you want to stay young at heart, you need meaningful connections, and nobody does meaningful connections quite like INFJs. While others are collecting hundreds of shallow friendships, INFJs are cultivating a small circle of deep, soul-nourishing relationships. These connections keep them young because they're real. There's no pretense, no keeping up appearances, no exhausting social performance. Just genuine understanding, acceptance, and love. When you have people in your life who truly see you and accept you completely, it creates a sense of safety and joy that's incredibly rejuvenating. INFJs also have this beautiful ability to form connections with people of all ages. They're not limited to their own age group. They could be best friends with someone 20 years older or 20 years younger because age is just a number when you're connecting on a soul level. This multi-generational perspective naturally makes them seem ageless. Plus, these deep connections give INFJs a sense of purpose and meaning that keeps them engaged with life. They're not going through the motions or feeling disconnected as they age. They're actively loving people, supporting them, learning from them, and growing together. That kind of emotional richness is the ultimate anti-aging serum. 11. They embrace change and growth at every stage. Here's something crucial. Most people resist change as they get older. They get set in their ways, develop rigid opinions, and close themselves off to new experiences. This rigidity is aging, not just mentally and emotionally, but it shows up physically too. INFJs are different. They embrace personal growth as a lifelong journey. They're constantly learning, evolving, questioning their own beliefs, and opening themselves up to new perspectives. This willingness to change and grow keeps them mentally flexible and spiritually young. Even as INFJs accumulate years and experiences, they never lose that hunger for self-improvement and understanding. They read books that challenge them. They have conversations that make them reconsider things. They reflect on their mistakes and actively work to become better versions of themselves. This growth mindset is incredibly youthful. It keeps their minds active, their spirits hopeful, and their perspectives fresh. When you're constantly evolving, you never become a product of any single era or age. You're always becoming something new, which is the definition of ageless. 12. The authentic self-expression that transcends time. Finally, let's talk about authenticity, the secret ingredient that ties everything else together. INFJs have this incredible commitment to being genuinely themselves, and authenticity is timeless by nature. They're not pretending to be younger than they are, but they're also not playing into stereotypes about how they should act at their age. They're just being real, expressing themselves honestly, and living according to their values. This authenticity creates a quality that can't be pinned to any specific age range. When you're authentic, you're not wasting energy on maintaining a facade or living up to external expectations. That saved energy shows up as vitality, presence, and yes, an ageless quality. Authentic people glow differently. They move through the world with less friction because they're not fighting against their own nature. INFJs figure out early on that being yourself is the only sustainable way to live. This realization frees them from so much of the stress and pressure that ages other people. They're not trying to recapture their youth or rush toward maturity. They're just existing fully in each moment as their truest selves. Conclusion. So there you have it. The secret behind why INFJs seem ageless and why everyone notices it instantly. It's not about expensive creams, perfect genetics, or refusing to acknowledge the passage of time. It's about something much deeper and more beautiful. INFJs possess this rare combination of old soul wisdom and childlike wonder. They process stress in ways that don't let it stick to them. They maintain mystery and depth that makes them impossible to pin down to any single age. They reject conventional timelines and live authentically on their own terms. They nurture rich inner worlds that exist outside of time. They're emotionally mature, yet playful, calm, yet engaged, traditional, yet ever-growing. Most importantly, they've mastered the art of being fully themselves without apology or pretense. And authenticity? That's the most ageless quality of all. The next time you meet an INFJ and can't quite figure out their age, you'll know exactly what you're sensing. It's not that they've discovered some secret anti-aging technique. It's that they're living in a way that makes age almost irrelevant. They're measuring their lives by depth, meaning, growth, and authentic connection rather than by the ticking of clock. And honestly, that's a lesson we could all learn from. Age is inevitable, but becoming ageless, that's a choice. A choice to live deeply, love authentically, stay curious, embrace growth, and refuse to let society's timelines define your worth. INFJs have been showing us how it's done all along. Maybe it's time we started paying attention. Thanks for watching. And if you're an INFJ, keep doing exactly what you're doing. The world needs more of that timeless, authentic energy you bring to everything you touch.